Ciao, loves. Welcome to Drawing Down the Stars. This is Gemma with your December new moon reading. This is the beginning of the 10th lunar month, in Latin known as Decem, which is where we get the word December from. It is also lunation number 1274. On the 10th lunar month, the sun and the moon will meet together in Mula, the very beginning of Sagittarius, at 4 degrees and 33 minutes for the sun and 4 degrees and 54 minutes for the moon. First and foremost, before I dive further into the meaning of the 10th lunar month and the planets, this position is the most intense and auspicious position in all of the 360 degrees of the zodiac. 5 degrees of Sagittarius is known as the gate of God. The gate of God across all lineages is the heart of the Milky Way. It is truly the center of our galaxy. 5 degrees, 1 degree only, right there, 5 degrees, and the moon will be there. If you remember in 2012, the Mayans saw that in December 2012, the world would come to an end. Well, here we are 13 years later, and the sun and the moon meet again in the center of the galaxy. The point of death and human transformation, the point of material dissolution. This gate of God is signified as the precipice of where we step into a higher spiritual realm. It is the gate, the threshold into a knowledge unknown. It is the ending and the new beginning in so many ways. This position in Mula, ruled by South Node K2, Mars is ruled by the goddess Nirti. That is, she governs, I want you to think of Kali, transformation, death. It is a very powerful and severe lunar mansion. Its aim is liberation, moksha, and it is symbolized as the roots beneath the tree, the spanning nutrient system that feeds everything around it. Now, when you think about the roots underneath the tree, and we think about the tree above, commonly we prune only what is above. We don't really ever cut roots because it kills it off. Well, here is Mula. It signifies cutting the roots. So let's dive into this severance for service. In the conjunction of the sun and the moon, Venus and Mars are with them in Sagittarius. They will play a significant role in this month's unfolding. Across from the sun and the moon is Jupiter in Gemini in his own lunar mansion of Purnavasu. So 7 houses away, Jupiter sits looking at all of these other planets in his house of Sagittarius. 12th to the moon is Mercury in Scorpio in his own lunar mansion of Jyeshta. And 4th from the moon sits Saturn in Pisces. We have a very, very profound spiritual upheaval that is undergoing. So let's dive in. The month will be about challenging your tendrils, challenging your root system. Now, the roots in Mula are commonly associated with family, not self, but it is the system of familial roots or association roots. Now, this doesn't have to be your family and bloodline. It very well is and can be, but it also is represented in associations or any type of group, religious group that you were a part of in your upbringing, like Boy Scouts of America, any type of this religious or a familial association that was a part of your upbringing, something that helped you grow. That's what the root system here represents. So it can be cultural as well. Now, this is a position of cutting away. It's cut away, severance for service. And in this position, liberation is key. So 100%, many of you in this 10th lunar month, that is December 20th to January 18th, you will cut away a lot. Many of you will cut away from certain spiritual associations. You might cut away from associations. You might cut away from family members. You might cut away from belief systems. In order to step on the threshold of God, you have to put something death of the old self in order to step into the unknown knowledge, to bring in a new light. This is the most spiritual position in the entire zodiac, and I can't emphasize this enough. And for those of you that are very familiar with Sagittarius nature, about this stepping away or cutting yourself off, that's where Sagittarius gets this quality from the lunar mansion of Mula. This doesn't serve me from my system, will no longer feed me, I must sever it. Mula, as I said, seeks liberation. This lunar mansion is ruled by the South Node K2, past life, cutting yourself away from materiality. There will be a strong upheaval and shift into our material associations. That can be across the board, as I mentioned, in those familial roots, those cultural root systems, but it also will be a severance into the old materiality systems has begun here. This is a pivot from the old material structures into a new material structure, or a complete severance from a reliance on material structures. Remember, liberation. This material world is going to ask you to sever yourself, sever the grasp on the mind, sever the grasp on the heart, and more importantly, sever the grasp on the spirit. While others are driven to reform it, many of you want to be liberated from it. You don't want to play the material game that has been playing out in the old root system that used to feed you. It's time for a new. So this material kind of cut and severance is going to carry us throughout this entire lunar month. And we see this in not only the moon's and the sun's position in Mula, because they will set the stage for the next month, but we also see it where Venus and Mars are. So Mars and Sagittarius, just always know that this is going to give you more strength. When we have Venus in Sagittarius, that means creation seeks more spirituality. Counting this, looking at this, Venus in this position is going to want to purify, want to purge in order to bring a purity of creation. It wants to be in a, think of this as a Mother Teresa kind of position. Or, for example, Angelina Jolie, where she adopts a lot of children. That's kind of where this nature is, where it is a service for others, or a creation, a purification of that connection to pleasure, and more of seeking it in a spiritual sense. Now let's look at Mercury 12th from the moon in Jyeshta. Jyeshta is also a very spiritual position. It is at the tail of the Scorpio. It is marked by the yogi. Then we have Saturn 4th from the moon in Pisces, in a position of karma distribution. And we have Jupiter across in Gemini in his lunar mansion of Purnavasu. This, in a higher context of this lunar mansion, is the transcendence of souls. So we have all of these things. The karma of old systems from Saturn is breaking away, creating new structures, giving out also rewards. We have moksha, liberation in Sagittarius, that is truly in the heart of the galaxy, setting at the gate of God, walking into the threshold of cutting old roots, shifting a material association to structure. And then you have Mercury right behind us, really whispering into the depths of intuition, into the sacred knowledge, communicating through the mind and through the intuition of to walk the path of the, maybe not the yogi, but of a higher knowing of the hidden. And here we have the precipice of beginning to walk into the hidden. This month is a reckoning. So while others are going to look to liberate and reform material structures, a lot of you are just going to cut away from certain family structures, cut away from associations. You're going to cut people out of your life. You're going to cut away things that don't serve you. You're going to turn more to the meaning, the source. What is the root that feeds me, and what feeds me, does it serve me? So let's dive into how the ancients saw it, and then we will touch back into how to work with it. During this month, it was a tumultuous month across Greek and Babylon. But in Rome, this month was sought as a preparation for the abundance to come. One of the most prominent festivals that give us an indication to this energy is Saturnalia. Saturnalia was literally a pivot or an inversion of ordering. Really hear my words when I say this. An inversion of order and structure. When we have this inversion of order and structure, it was when the servants would be served by their lords. So it was a complete pivot of hierarchy, a changing from the point of darkness to returning to light, a shift within our worldly structure. It was honored with Ops, who is the goddess of abundance, and recognized as perseverance through the darkness, and now having faith and honoring that the fruits and the seeds will come. Now let's take it into the Babylonian and the Greek perspective, because the Babylonians called this 10th month the Ara Tetumbum, and it was celebrated as known as the waters to come. Now, the 10th month was also signified as abundance, but they saw this as the opposite of a life cycle, where there would be the celestial waters would be in a rage or a tumultuous time. And they saw it that life is still continuing through darkness. And in this period, it was that the earth was desolate. And to go, I want you to think about this. When there are waves on the surface, the further deep you go into the water, it becomes calm. And that's how the Babylonians saw it. And I want you to really think about that with us being on at the 5th degree at the gate of God. Above the surface, there are windy storms, raging waves. Below those raging waves are calm waters if you go deep enough. If you get out of that wind and you go down into the cave, you will be in silence and calm. This is where the abundance will then flourish from a point of peace, having faith that there is abundance that will come into a new material form. They saw it as a point of where the goddess of abundance, even though her expression wasn't seen on earth or on land, right, in agriculture, the goddess never ceased to produce. There is life underneath in the soil. And Mula here in the underground roots represents this. Ruled by Niriti, the Hindu god, Mula shows transformation and death. It also, a lot of Vedic astrologers and Jyotish astrologers will say, oh my God, it's the most tumultuous position. But it's also a position of abundance, of reward, of sneaky millionaires. It's also a position of fruitfulness, but it is not focused on the fruits of materiality. Because the lunar mansion and the moon will fall into this cosmic portal, this gate of God, we have to go deeper into the spiritual connections and not rest solely into the materiality. So, as we draw these stars down further, let's walk into the path of the infinite. Through destruction, creation is held. It's held in the galactic center. The very tip of this star is the tip of Scorpio's tail and the precipice of Sagittarius. It means getting to the source, connecting with source. That death is required to the portal of life. Biblically, it was also seen as the eye of the needle, the threshold to heaven, to where the wealthy, the greedy, those that are bound to the material world could not walk through. It is a cause of stirring, of meaning, but the meaning is not experiential. It is a knowledge unknown, okay? The unknown meaning. We have to go beyond form. It is the essence that is hidden within. Because the tree above will only be reflective to how vital its roots are below. And held in the depths of this position We have to flip it. It's bottom up. There's a pivot completely in order and structure. Energies will shift, as well as the projection of self will shift. You will be positioned into more inner knowledge. It will be not the past that is affecting your present, but it is living into the future, if you will. It is that the past has no effect on your present. That is part of this severance. It's the courage to live a life beyond just the pleasure of living. This is where Venus gives a new sense of purification. Mars will recharge the life force into a spiritual matter and offer courage. Saturn will divvy out any karmas, especially related to home. It will also create a deeper understanding within organizational or nutrition structures, nourishment that we gained from whatever we cut off. And Jupiter will help this transition, and Mercury is whispering you to listen to your intuition. Now, as we go deeper into these positions, one last thing that I want to say is the past few readings. Let's go back 3 or 4. You'll see now and understand where each month has kind of moved us into this evolutionary cycle of where we are, because nothing is a stop, go, stop, go, stop, go. New moon is now just Sagittarius energy. No, it's the theme of the year that unfolds through its lunations of the lunar month. And each lunar month is going to guide our mind into how this is going to unfold. So the last few lunations, I talked about the sharpening of your inner intuition. Then it was the heightening of the inside out. What you see around you is not the way it is. This was also precipice to where we are now, right? So the more that you sharpened your intuition, the more you leaned onto psychic ability, the more that you trusted your gut, your higher self, your buddhi, the knowledge that is not an embodiment. Then we flipped into the following month, which was about flipping things inside out. I kept saying, what you see isn't what you get. The outside is not real. It's the inside. This was actually drawing more energy from the intuitive center into understanding how to work into recreation from the inner world. It also created an exposure of truth. Remember a few months ago, what was happening? Look at what's happening now. So we had this unfolding of truth that hit a major point of severance. And now we come here into this month where we go truly into severance for service and restructuring the material world. We are in a pivot. It is a structure into the spirit, into a higher realm. You are stepping now into the gate. And as you step into the gate, know that this gate is always guarded. Always. Just as the Egyptians had the 12 gates, this part for the Egyptians marked the midway journey. It was the death, where you cut off the old self. And in this position, to cross this threshold, you cannot carry what used to feed you. You don't need that type of nourishment anymore. It is understanding the source of things, getting into the source of things. I want you to really think as evolution as a spiral. So when we step into this gate of God, it steps us into a new resonance, a new era, micro era for humanity. Remember, think about the Mayans, marked this position 13 years ago. 2012 was a death. Really was. And now look at now. We have now a new point of repivoting the material structure, cutting away and getting to the source. All right, loves. So in this month, if you like, this month will go from December 20th to January 18th. I've also created another Substack, which is called Lunar Sync. It includes the herb, which is sarsaparilla, but also recipes, a ritual, a yogic practice, and more about what I covered here in the ancient ritual times and how it is applied, as well as specific key dates of execution. So, for money, for litigation, moving, relationships, tutto, everything. And then lastly, the yoga practice is here to support you. I have a moon in Sagittarius to do this practice. You can do it the entire month. And it is best if you fast on a new moon, especially this new moon. If you can fast for 24 hours, it is optimal. And one last announcement, I have a few spots left on my retreat to Scotland. Again, this is a spiritual retreat to bring in the spring equinox at the world's oldest standing stones. These are the lunar sites as well as the new moon. So the temple of the sun and the temple of the moon. And we will be going through the mystical Scotland. And I have a lovely, lovely Gaelic folk witch, I guess, if you'd like to, a folk witch that will be teaching about Gaelic traditions to better understand the elementals, the traditions, and the magic and the mystic of that is Scotland. That's it. You can check everything out on my website. All of my love, tanti tanti baci. Until next month, lots of loves. Stay well. Ciao.